Doctors by day, adventurers by night. Roll for Cliniciative. Subscribe now for epic quests and critical heals.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of Roll for Cliniciative, a real play Dungeons & Dragons podcast. I am CJ, I am your DM, I am a GP in Outer Metro Sydney, and tonight we'll be playing through Frozen Sick. And this is an official D&D module. We'll be running a team of doctors through this module tonight. And with that, we're going to kick off in the biting north. We zoom in on a farmstead, a few clicks south of Palebank village. We see patches of growth in the snow, surviving despite the arduous conditions. And we zoom in on Rachel. Rachel, who do we see? Who are you? And tell us what your character looks like.
Hi, yeah, so I'm Rachel and I'm playing Snowdrop Marigold Dilworthy. I'm a 70 centimetre tall rabbit, sorry, Harangon, and a farmer by trade, but not a very good one. I'm a snow hare or a snow rabbit, so I've got nice fluffy kind of greyish white fur, very good for blending in with the snow. If I close my eyes, you might not see me. And if I do say so myself, I'm a very handsome young rabbit. And I'm currently just sitting in my backyard, not sure what I'm doing.
So we zoom in and we see a scroll of paper blown by the wind, drifts down and lies in front of you, falling in the snow. And we see on this piece of paper a portrait of one of the locals at Palebank village. You don't know them very well, but we see a portrait of Ergon Wenth and a reward at the bottom of the poster for 100 gold pieces for anyone who can solve the mystery of his untimely death. And we see that Snowdrop has a variety of things around her. She's got a pack, she's got some adventurer gear or the beginnings of some adventurer gear, as well as a warhammer sitting nearby. And we see your father, David Dilworthy, and he sort of clomps up to you with his working gear. He pauses by you and looks at your adventuring gear and he says, Snowdrop, the Dilworthys have always been dill farmers. Back in my father's day and his father's day and his father's day. He used to say you can never get rid of dill once it gets in the ground and you can't move a Dilworthy from the farm. I don't believe in this adventuring malarkey you've been talking about. I reckon you should stay here on the farm with me, your ma, and your 40 brothers and sisters.
Get off my back, Pa.
This is outrageous.
You know I'm no good at this.
I won't be talked to like that on my own farm. Maybe you should head into town for a bit of a break.
Snowdrop's always wanted to leave the farm because she's a terrible farmer. And so at this point in time, she's probably going to seize that opportunity and try and get away from her dad and 40 siblings with whom she shares one room with as quickly as possible.
So you look down, you see the flyer sitting there on the ground. You can reach out for it if you want. The road down the path out of the farm, we can see there's a cart trundling along, so you might be able to hitch a lift down the way. So if you want to leave the farm, you're certainly free to go. A few of your brothers and sisters are coming in from the field. So you see your brother Derek, your brother Declan, Darla, Darius, Daria, Darlene, and a few of the others sort of drifting through. But at the end of that line of people, we see your mother. We see Diana Dilworthy, and she sort of looks at you with your adventurers pack and your father, David Dilworthy, fuming on the porch. And she comes up to you and she sort of sizes you up and pulls you in for a hug and says, Snowdrop, I always knew you were a bit different than your brothers and sisters. When you were born, I was going to call you Daffodil. But something told me you were more of a marigold, because they can thrive anywhere too. and you feel that your mother slips you a little something in your pocket, and you feel like it's the jingle of maybe 5 to 10 gold pieces. Not a lot, but a considerable amount for a farmer. And she whispers to you, "I've been saving this up because I didn't think you'd be around here forever. If you're going to go off adventuring, though, just keep an eye out for your big sister. Your dad's all right. He's just a bit salty she left and never came back. Look after yourself."
Oh, Ma. I give my mum a big hug back. And then before I can burst into tears, I turn and I try and hitch a ride on that cart.
Easy enough. The cart driver sort of like gives you a thumbs up. Rural folk very happy to oblige, so you can hitch a cart ride with no effort. And with that, we see trace of snow swirls up into the air, and we zoom out, and we zoom a bit north, and we come down towards the outskirts of Palebank village. But we stop at a monastery. We see a monastery, and this is where we find you, Nick. So, Nick, who are you? Who are you playing, and who do we see?
Yeah, so I'm Nick. I'm a junior doc working in Australia. I'll be playing Brother Marshall. So Brother Marshall is a gentleman who's probably in his mid-20s or so, bald head, such is the way of the order. And he's tending to the garden at the moment, which is a pretty admirable feat considering there's snow covering a lot of the ground, but somehow still there's a few plants that seem to shine through and provide a bit of life to the monastery that he spent so much time at.
So your peaceful gardening is disrupted by sort of the screaming and yelling of a few of the orphans running nearby, and you see multiple orphans. They're all a bit thin. You know, there's not much fat on the bone with these kids. They're a little. There's no other word for it. They're a little malnourished, and you see a couple of the kids are fighting, and you can let them fight it out. You can just continue your gardening. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah, so Brother Marshall grew up at this very orphanage slash monastery, and he'd absolutely recall the time that he spent in similar positions playing with the kids. From what he can say so far, does it seem like it's all joyful in nature, or is there a bit of malice to their little battle?
You can see that a few of the younger kids are sort of trying to grab something off little Timmy, who's one of the older kids. He's getting closer to the age where he would leave the orphanage. But you can see he's got something in his hand, and he's sort of playing keep away from the younger kids.
I think almost out of curiosity, I think Marshall would go over and see what's going on, see what little Timmy's holding.
So the other kids see you coming, and you know they know you. You're one of the respected members of the monastery, and they say, "Brother Marshall, Timmy won't let us share his egg sandwich." And Timmy says, "Get away with you! I stole this fair and square from old man Eggins. It's my egg sandwich."
And Brother Marshall beams. Yeah, I think he just sort of, as he approaches, realizes that's all that's going on, just sort of nods his head and turns his back and continues to tend to his garden, letting the children sort themselves out.
And you can see one of the other monks, the kerfuffle draws the attention of one of the other monks, Brother Samuel, who's sort of a stern type. And he wanders down to the children sort of fighting in the courtyard. And he looks at all the kids and sort of, monk-like, he pulls them apart, sort of hands without seeming to break a sweat. He pulls them apart and hangs them, away from each other. And he looks at them and says, "Now, children, perhaps it is time we reflected on the teachings of the Frostbound Dawn Monastery. This is not behavior acceptable of the orphanage nor the monastery." And he sort of sits them down in a line. You can see these children have been well trained to sort of not disobey Brother Samuel. He seems like a kind soul, but perhaps one who does practice discipline. And he says, "Children, here at the Frostbound Dawn Monastery, we practice two arts. We have the Frostbound Fist, still, icy, calm, and it's balanced by our Dawn Strike, fast and explosive." "Do you mean like diarrhea, sir?" And you can see Brother Samuel sort of shoots a long, suffering glance at the other kid who's spoken up. He says, "No, Declan, not like that. So he sort of thinks and he says, and the reason we practice both is for balance. We know that sometimes it is best to be calm and sometimes to explode with action. We know in times of war, there will come times of peace. And we know that in times of hunger, and he sort of deftly picks the egg sandwich from Timmy and hands it to one of the other kids, there will come times of plenty. And I have faith that someone will find us a way to keep us fed here at the monastery. And with that, we see a piece of paper flutter down from the sky, and it's a flyer for the quest for Ergon Wenth, and it sort of lays at your feet, Brother Marshall. And you see the 100 gold piece reward, and you're aware that that could buy many egg sandwiches or indeed potatoes or whatever you wished.
I think I would pick up the piece of paper. Absolutely, it would have huge benefits for the community to solve this one. And I think also, like, just inherently, the sort of the death surrounding the mystery is also, seems to have haunted the community from what he can tell. And so even from that perspective alone, Brother Marshall would want to take part. So I think I'd walk up to Brother Samuel and show him and explain, I think there's work to be done.
Brother Samuel's just going to nod and say, I can look after them here. You go find out what this means.
I think with that, I'd go and pack my minimal provisions, take my normal weaponry that I take when I'm traveling or asked to perform duty, and head out towards the village.
Okay, so we zoom out another flurry of snow, and we see the snow this time spins and comes closer and falls in Palebank village, and that's where we find your character, Chris. So we find your character. Tell us who we see, who you are, and what you're doing.
Kia ora, I'm Chris. I'm a radiation oncology doctor. I'm playing Angelo Caval. I am probably just about 20. I've got olive skin, dark hair. I'm wrapped up in so many furs, marking me as definitely not a local. I've got golden irises and skin that's far too radiant for a world without Accutane. That sort of marks me as an asima.
We see you're in the middle of a courtyard, and you've got a relatively run-down cart that you're attempting to sell to Old Man Eggins.
Eggins, no, sorry, the new cart, that's well sold by now. This is even better than a new cart. What this one is battle tested. We know that it can go the distance. It's been through the roughs. You know that this one's going to last.
Battle tested?
I don't know. Metaphorically speaking, of course. I mean, rough farm fields and ornery horses. Yes, sure, that's what I mean.
Who was it last owned by?
Well, it's last owned by me.
And did you drive it a lot?
I took it all the way here from Waterdeep, and I must say, it pains me to lose it. I'm giving it away on a steal, selling it for a song, and a fair amount of gold.
Okay, let's do the first roll of the game. Can you give me either a deception or a persuasion check, your choice, depending on how honest you're being here. Sean, while he's doing that, your character is going to notice, and your character's in the square. We'll get you to describe who you are in a sec. But your character will notice that Old Man Eggins is not paying much attention to his gold pouch. And if you wanted to do anything with that information, you could. So, Sean, you tell us what your character looks like, and then Chris, you can tell us what your role is.
Sure. So I'm Sean. I'm an anaesthetist in Sydney, and I'm playing Theo Ironfen. So he's a 16-year-old drow or dark elf, is a rogue. He's so got dark skin. He's wearing a leather leather armor. He has lots of other sort of. He's got clothes with lots of pockets and things, and he's actually got a lot of herbs and things in there because he actually works for an apothecary as his apprentice. But he does have nimble fingers, so yes, he'll be watching this interaction very closely.
Okay. What did you get, Chris? What did you? Actually, I should refer to you as your character.
Deception.
Okay. So Old Man Egan says, "Oh, this is a fine vehicle. I mean, it's worth a lot of egg sandwiches, but I could use this in my day-to-day business. How much do you want for it?"
Now, I must admit, I don't know how much a cart would usually go for, but I'm probably going to be trying to sell it for the regular cost of a cart and then probably throw in the extended warranty as well.
Sure. Let's say a cart goes for, I don't know, let's say 50 gold pieces, depending on quality. So you tell him...
A cart like this, easily worth 60. For an upstanding gentleman like you, I could probably do 50.
Well, you drive a hard bargain, but I'll take it, sir. And with that, he's happy to hand over his coin pouch for the cart.
Yeah,
and that'll conclude your transaction. And yeah, Sean, if you don't want to do anything here, you're free to drift back to the apothecary if you wish, and we'll zoom in on that.
Yeah, I'll do that, I think.
So, Sean, we zoom in on the apothecary, and you walk in and you see the local gnome apothecary, Orbis Ironfen, who's sort of very familiar to you, who took you in. And he looks over at you entering and sort of nods at you and says, "How was your day?"
Good. I think I've gotten what you wanted. And I whip out a list of things that are scrawled and various herbs and things which he's given me, and I try to take them all out of my pockets and say, "I think I've gotten everything that you wanted." But was there anything else, or have I missed anything?
No, this is good work. It's been good. It's been a slow business, and
well, ever since the
I
winter
hope
came,
things will pick up.
Ever since the winter came, it's been very difficult to get all these herbs and things for you. But I find a way to get to them, I suppose.
And I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful that we're able to get these things. I do sometimes wonder how you get them, but sometimes I don't know if I should ask. Teo?
Then don't ask.
Well, I won't, Teo. I won't. And then he sort of looks over to the corner of the shop, and you see a poster there with the reward for Ergon Wenth's mysterious illness and death. He says, "But there may come a time when you may need to put those skills, whatever they are, or however you're procuring these things, to greater use. And that time might be coming sooner than you think."
Are you talking about this wanted poster?
Someone's got to sort this out.
100 gold is a lot. That would help us both. It would help a lot of people.
It'd help a lot of people. And I mean, it's bad business. You've seen people leaving town out of fear. I haven't actually seen Pelk's Curiosities open in days. And I mean, Pelk's been around for decades. I mean, it's terrible business.
Do you think you might have to close the shop?
Oh, no. You don't worry about that. That's fine.
Okay. Right. Well, I'll go and have a look at the poster and get a bit more information about the wanted poster.
So you see the wanted poster. You can see the reward is stated 100 gold pieces for the circumstances surrounding Ergon Wenth's death, either information on the cause or further information relating to whatever happened. And you can see down the bottom is written on the poster that interested parties should present themselves to the funeral of Ergon Wenth today. And with that, you hear a bell tolling, and you know that it's what the town uses to call people for funerals. So if you wish, you can make your way over there, and anyone else who's had their poster and is interested can also make their way over there, and that's where we'll all sort of catch up.
Yep. That's where I'll go.
Okay. For the next bit, I'm going to switch you guys, if you haven't already, just open up the spectator view D&D Beyond screen. Just have that ready to go. So there should be a graveyard there if you haven't opened that up already. That's in the private chat. But all four of you sort of make your way over to the graveyard. There's a few things you can see there. So you see that snow falls gently from the sky and wind bites your cheeks as you stand in the graveyard of Palebank Village. You know that Palebank Village, those of you not far from here, have learned that it's a fishing outpost of Uthadern that is home to several hundred dwarves and elves. The sun is low in the sky, sinking behind the fresh grave of Ergon Wenth, an old dwarf who, according to town rumour, had caught a curse or a disease that turned him into an ice statue. The folk of the village have gathered to pay their final respects to Ergon's frozen remains, and the poster you all picked up suggested that any adventurers interested in offering their service might present themselves here. Just for the heck of it, for no reason, do you guys mind adding your tokens to the map and just position yourself where you would think you would be? You can see the priest of Moradin is presiding over the service, and behind him, I'm just going to ping something, and I'm going to switch the StreamYard over to the map as well, just for our viewers. So you guys position yourselves. I'm just going to switch to the map view. Actually, just describe for me, you guys, maybe starting with you, Rachel, where you're positioned and sort of why you've done that. You can see the priest of Moradin presiding over the service. You can see Nibbles. There's a few assorted townsfolk, which I haven't placed on the map, just sort of standing in front of the priest of Moradin. Rachel, Snowdrop, why have you positioned yourself there?
So I've just come to the village of Palebank, and I've heard the bell, which sounds vaguely familiar, having come from a nearby village for a funeral bell. I've got a vague idea of what's going on because I've seen the poster, but I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone close to the one that's passed away. So I've kind of crept around the side to view it from a long distance.
Okay. And Angelo, why are you positioned where you are?
I figured I've positioned myself near the back of the crowd. The poster asked for adventurers to come by, so I figured I was invited, but not known in these parts. Didn't feel it was right to push to the front.
And Brother Marshall, why are you where you are?
Yeah, so very similar to what the others have said already, where not immediately a part of the funeral party. And I think Brother Marshall probably acknowledges that he stands out in a crowd and possibly doesn't want to draw attention away from what is a very somber moment. Monks do go through the village from time to time, but some of the villagers don't always take too kindly. So I think with that in mind, he's going to stay at the back and just watch for the signs of where it's appropriate to meet.
And Teo, any reason for the tree? Are you a cat? Are you a fan of cats? Are you looking out for a cat? You can see Nibbles, the town cat, sort of to the north.
Oh, yes. No, not a cat, but I'm very sort of nimble and dexterous, and so I was trying to basically get a good view of what's happening, but not be involved in the crowd. So I saw its tree and thought it'd be pretty good to get a vantage point by climbing up it, and so I can see what's going on.
Okay. So you see at the front of the service, the priest of Moradin calls up a village elder. You see anyone who's local would know this is Elro Aldator. He's a sort of weathered elf retired ranger, sort of brown hair fading to grey, which as an elf sort of places him quite elderly. He's sort of the de facto leader of the village. And he turns to the service and he says, "Well, Ergon was a grumpy old shite, but he was our grumpy old shite. And what happened to him wasn't right. I know that he did some things that none of us liked. He was loud, he smelled, but he was also a solid sort, and he got on with the job. If anyone has, or anyone is interested in getting to the bottom of this, please see me after the service. And with that, I'd like to raise a glass to Ergon." who was taken from us too soon. And he sort of starts to raise a cup. And as that happens, you hear a cackling. Anyone who would like to can make a perception check.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yes.
And for those
I got a
doctors
strong
listening,
9.
a strong 9. So for those doctors listening who haven't played D&D, most checks run on a spectrum of 10 being an easy
Also a
success,
9.
20 being hard. Okay, so we've got 2 9s.
5 for me.
Rachel, 5. Okay. Rachel, do you
I've just rolled a 19 and I'm +1 for perception.
Okay, 19 +1. So that actually makes sense in some ways, because what you see, Rachel, is popping up near Nibbles, the town cat. You see, it's as if a fairy was jagged and made from ice. You see this sprite-like creature that's all edges and no curves. It's just hard ice, the whole thing. You see it cackling and sort of leaping from a branch onto the town's cat as if to grab it and drag it away. You also, with a 19 and +1, you glimpse something to the north, just beyond your vision, beyond the map. You see something, perhaps a person, a humanoid in a bowler hat, but you can't make out much more. And with that, I need you guys to roll initiative. And this is our first roll for initiative. All right, sweet. So, Snowdrop. You're keen to get into the fray. So you see each of these squares is 5 feet. You can move up your full movement range towards the ice method if you wish. You can sort of have a peek around. You can investigate. The inventory is yours. You tell me what you would like to do.
So my full range is 30 feet. And I'm going to charge straight at the ice method. Well, I'm going to hop straight at the ice method.
So you move yourself up 30 feet, so you'll be able to get reasonably there. If you want to, I'm not sure if you guys can, but there's a ruler here if you get desperate.
2,
For example.
3, 4, 5, 6. All right.
Cool. All right. So you are about 10 feet from the ice method. So for most standard attacks, you wouldn't be able to reach at that point. If you want, you can move up closer, I believe, by using your action to dash. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Chris or Sean. Or you can hang there.
The other thing I can do is a rabbit hop. I can jump 10 feet. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to jump 10 feet at the ice method. And then I land right next to it, kind of right there.
So you come crashing out of the rear of the graveyard, and you charge towards this icy sprite, and it sort of snaps its head up and looks at you, and it's briefly distracted. You can see it's got its focus on Nibbles the cat, but it's certainly somewhat flummoxed by the appearance of a Harangon barbarian. And with that, I think we'll move on to the next person if you don't want to do anything else.
All right, I'll stop there.
Teo, you're up. And
So just describe to me what the ice method looks like and what it's doing, if that's okay. Or I could just perceptional insight to see what it's doing, if that's okay.
Yeah. At basic glance, you see the ice method is a small humanoid. It's leaped off the branch and sort of attempted to grab onto Nibbles the cat with its claws. It's sort of dancing around in a sort of sprightly manner. It's cackling a little, and if you want to make an insight check or a perception check, that will use your action. But you're welcome to just use those basic information if you wish and get up there and attack, whatever you want.
So I might. Can I get onto the house firstly? Jump on top of the house. And then use as much of my movement to go to the top of the house like that. I think that's about 30 feet total.
Give me an acrobatics or athletics check just to make the trip from the tree to the house. Not a hard check, but athletics or acrobatics at your preference.
Yeah, I'll do acrobatics.
Yep.
10.
Not a hard check. You're well practiced at leaping about the village.
Nice.
That's fine. You make it with a 10.
And I'll get to as far as I can, which I think is about there, and I'll just shoot with my short bow and do an attack with that.
Yep.
So that will be short bow. Does a 9 hit?
No.
Okay.
With a 9, you see the arrow sort of whisks past the ice method. It startles Nibbles the cat, who's like, and then clunks into the ground.
Cool. And that's the end of my turn.
Okay. That brings us to Angelo.
Ice method's known to be evil.
You can give me. This will just use your. Do you have proficiency in religion or nature or arcana?
Nope, none of those.
Without a roll, you're not sure. You can see it's sort of cackling in a menacing manner. But if you want to roll a religion check, roll an insight check.
What I might do then is I'm going to rub my hands together, try and get the heat into the hands to get the magic working, and use my innate sorcery bonus action.
Oh yeah, tell us about that. That's a great feature.
So it's a new feature of 5.5. It's the sorcerer's equivalent to a rage, and so as a bonus action, you can make your magic more powerful, and get advantage on attack rolls and harder to resist your spells. And I'm going to hold a sorcerer's burst, a burst of fire directed at the ice method. If it seems to do anything harmful towards the cat or towards any of the other people here.
But you're holding your attack, you're not actually launching it, so you're just holding it. What's the trigger for the attack again? Sorry.
If it does anything harmful towards the cat or to any of the other people here.
Okay, so not a hard thing to see at the moment. You can see that it's sort of sunk its claws into the cat, so it's trying to grab it. Whether or not you feel like you want to launch your attack based on that, I'll leave to you. So you can launch it now or you can hold it. Okay, good. Fair enough. With that, who's got a high passive perception? Who's got a fairly high wisdom? Anyone with a passive perception over 10, you sort of see, just sort of running towards the graveyard, you see a dwarf charging towards the graveyard, sort of a cheery looking figure with armor and weapons. So anyone with a passive perception over 10 sees a relatively new local Duran Thunder Axe charging towards the graveyard. And with that, Dave, can you tell us who they see charging towards the graveyard?
So they see a short and stocky red-haired dwarf just charging through the graveyard. Think, oh golly, I'm lost. I swear I was supposed to make a right turn. And then Duran looks around, trying to take in, thinking he walked into a very unusual situation.
Okay. So Duran, I'm going to have you charging in up from the north here. Pop you in the initiative. But while that's happening, can I get... that's going to be Nibbles the cat's turn. Unless you want to do anything else, Angelo.
Nope, that's my turn.
Lovely. Okay. So, Nibbles the cat is going to try and break... he seems to be grappled by the creature, so Nibbles the cat is going to try and break the grapple. Ooh. So Nibbles actually rolls a 16 on his grapple check. Not very dexterous, not very strong, but that's enough to sort of break the grapple, and is going to then take its movement to try and run. Let's see, where is it going to run? It sees Teo, it sees Snowdrop. It's going to run behind Snowdrop. And you see the Ice Method's not happy with this, and it sort of lashes out in an attempt to strike it with its reaction. So you see the Ice Method hisses Nibbles the cat, and will take a claw attack. Does hit. Oh, this is not good. I'll be honest with you guys. Nibbles has 2 hit points. So this is going to roll for 1d4 plus 1 damage. So the outcome's not going to be great either way. If 1d4 plus 1 equals 5, there may be dire consequences for Nibbles. So I'm just going to roll this. Okay, so Nibbles takes 3 damage,
Ooh.
which is enough to put Nibbles down, but Nibbles is
Oh,
not
no.
permanently slain. So
Not
Nibbles
Nibbles.
is down, and you may still be able to rescue Nibbles on the next turn, but yeah, that's unfortunately where we're at.
Our
That's
first
the trigger for
encounter,
my
and we
held
need a
action,
medikit.
so I'll fire off my fire blast of fire at this guy here.
Yeah, absolutely. So you trigger, and
Yeah.
do you want to
So
just
it's
tell
at
us what it looks like? We haven't seen
So
the
it's
magic
just a jet of fire coming out from their hands as I finally managed to warm them up, and it's at advantage from that sorceress burst. So I roll a 8 plus 5 is 13.
8 plus 5 is 13. That does hit.
Wonderful, and then that's going to deal 7 points of fire damage.
Ooh. And I think I'm pretty sure that this. So you see that you see the fire bursts out and it strikes towards the ice method, and the ice method actually looks at the fire with fear in its eyes. You see an instinctual reaction in this creature that, fire is not its favorite thing. It has been ingrained in it over generations that fire is to be feared. So with that, you see that the fire actually hits the ice method and does considerably more damage than you've seen in the past. And your magic is considerable, but this does way more than you expected it to do. And you suspect this ice method is in fact vulnerable to fire. It's still standing, but it's taken quite a beating.
Right, that's my reaction done.
Okay. So we'll move on. So that is then the Ice Mephit's turn. So Ice Mephit sort of has a look around skittishly. It's taken a huge amount of damage. So what it's going to do is it's going to cast its Frost Breath, which is a 15-foot cone of cold air. It can't get at Angelo with 15 foot. With 15 foot, it's going to actually target Snowdrop. So, Snowdrop, can you make for me a DC 10 dexterity saving throw? So you're aiming to beat 10 or more on a dexterity saving throw.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that, I can draw a cone. That's pretty cool.
So I rolled 12 and I've got +2 on dexterity.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you see the ice method draws in a cloud of the already icy air, and then its lungs seem to expand far larger than its chest cavity should. It's almost cartoonish. And then a cloud comes out in a cone, a focused cone at you. With that, you take half as much damage as you should. So you take 4 points of damage. Unfortunately, behind you, Nibbles is hit by the bit that gets past you. And Nibbles does unfortunately take one death saving fail. So fails one death saving throw. He'll get 3 of those. But if he gets all 3, he's not getting up. So that's all the Ice Method can do without moving away from Snowdrop, where he'll take an attack. Yeah, Dave, your turn is up. You see the Ice Method's pretty bruised, pretty battered. You see Nibbles, the cat, is making death saving throws. And you see the rest of the team. What do you wish to do?
I think Durin, being a guard, notices the Ice Method being a threat, but at the same time, he also notices a cute little cat slowly fading away. So first thing he does is, I'm assuming it's 5-foot squares?
5-foot squares, absolutely.
Yep, 5. He moves to where Nibbles is, and then uses Lay on Hands to heal Nibbles for 2 hit points.
That's fantastic. Nibbles gets back up, and Nibbles feels almost, he feels back to full. Like, Nibbles did not have a lot of hit points. With 2, he's back up, he's back in the game, and you suspect, the team doesn't have to do anything else. Nibbles will take care of the rest, probably.
And Durin just starts trying to pet Nibbles, like, oh, cute little baby, I hope you're okay.
All right.
Yep.
Do you want to do anything else with your turn?
No, that's all Durin will do on his turn.
Okay. the priest of Moradin comes up next. He sort of looks around, gauges what's going on, and sort of is wary. He's sort of protecting the parishioners. He doesn't want to intervene with the ice method necessarily. And then we come to Brother Marshall. Brother Marshall, what's up?
Yeah, so I think Brother Marshall's in a very unfortunate position for this. So he's going to move up towards where the fighting is with the thought that he might be able to help out. He's actually going to position himself just behind where I think, is that like a little cauldron on fire? Is that what the little thing in the middle is? Of the map?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And he's going to draw his short bow and make an attack at the icy creature. It's causing so much trouble.
Yeah, go for it.
Just going to roll a d20. 11 plus 5, give me 16.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely hits. Roll damage.
Oh, I can just click here. Oh, that's awesome. 5 and 3 gives me 8 damage.
8 damage. Okay. So describe for me this strike as it comes in, because this is a pretty impactful strike. What do you do as a monk? How do you attack?
Yeah, so I think Brother Marshall will get into position, draw his bow, very methodical, very practiced, very rhythmic in how he takes this strike. He's going to line up the creature exactly, allowing for a slight curve in the arc, while also trying to heat the ends of the arrow as it goes through the flaming cauldron, with the aim that it's going to try and pierce through essentially the head of this creature.
Yeah, sure. Easy done. It pierces the head of the creature, and the ice method staggers back. It is sort of is staggering on its feet, and as you sense it's about to keel over, and then from the north, you see a sorceress burst leap from the north to strike the ice method, just as it was disintegrating into particles, elemental ice particles. And the ice method fades away, but a new character strides in from the north of the graveyard wearing a bowler hat and a monocle. And he walks up to the crowd, sort of a rotund gentleman with a bowler hat, sort of a well-kept suit. And he says, "Ho ho! Another victory for the world's greatest traveling detective, Horatio Cardigan." And he sort of wanders over as though he's the sort of the cock of the walk. He seems to think he's done most of the work, and he wanders over and stands majestically in front of the ice mephit's remains and sort of holds out a business card, flicks it through into the crowd. What do you guys do?
Duran goes chasing after the business card. He clearly came here. He doesn't know where things are, and he's like, "Oh, this might give me some information."
Okay, you see the business card. You see. Would you like to investigate the business card?
I would, yes. Okay.
Okay. Well, you can roll me a investigation check.
And would you like me to do that in D&D Beyond, or is dice okay?
At your preference. At your preference. Yeah.
Okay. So investigation check is just a flat D20. Oh, that's flat 18.
Flat 18. With an 18, you see that this is a business card. It says Horatio Cardigan, the world's greatest traveling detective. And you see there's a little asterisk with an 18, and the asterisk is really small attached to the rest of the card. And there's a tiny bit of writing down the bottom. With an 18, you can't fully make it out, but you see that there's an asterisk attached to the world's greatest traveling detective. That's what you get. Okay. You do also remember. Yeah, that'd be what you get with a 19. Yeah.
Okay. So I just look at the business card, I pocket it, and I move on. Yep.
Yep. And we will drop out a formal initiative. But what would you guys like to do?
Could I make a history check to see if I know this guy from anywhere?
Yeah, anyone who wants can actually make a history check.
That's a 5 for Duran.
Oh, I can see there's a 24 on a couple of people.
Nat 20 plus 4.
Okay, with a nat 20. With a nat 20, you have actually heard of Horatio Cardigan. This is someone who does have a bit of folklore about him. So it's hard to it's hard to pin down what specifically he's done, but anyone you talk to seems to think he's a pretty good bloke and he's pretty good at solving mysteries. But when you sort of press into the details, you don't actually. It's not like he solved the mystery of the 3 bandits. It's just that everyone seems like, oh yeah, he's a great detective. He sort of travels from town to town doing things.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Horatio Cardigan sort of is going to start striding towards the town elder and says, well, sorry, hang on, French. What's great to do? This is a mystery that I can unravel. And I'm here to sort out the death of this unfortunate dwarf gentleman. I will attend to this post-haste because it's time for this mystery. And you see he pulls at a fiber on his cardigan. And he says, to be unraveled. And all the crowd sort of is like, yeah, he did the thing. He did the catchphrase. He sort of wanders off to have a chat with the priest of Miradan. And he's sort of like, looking over at the cask of the. But yeah, that's what he's going to do. He's sort of ignored you. He hasn't really said much to you guys. He's sort of a little aloof, and he's just wandered over to have a chat with the priest of Miradan. But you do also see the elder of the town is sort of looking askance at Horatio, and if you want, any of you can go and have a chat to him.
I think Durin will approach the elder and go, afternoon, sir. Sorry I'm late. I took a wrong turn, but I'm here now, and I saved a cat. And while he salutes himself, he accidentally hits himself on the head with a warhammer.
Okay. So, Elder Aldator, who's as a well-weathered elf retired ranger, sort of looks at you and says, "Thank you for attending a gone service. I think our village may be in danger, and while I am reassured by the presence of Mr. Cardigan, I do wonder if a set of local eyes might be able to piece this together in a different manner or perhaps more expeditiously. Certainly, I've asked anyone who could help us solve this mystery to attend today. Would you be interested in such a thing?"
Well, absolutely, sir. That is my absolute duty, and I am absolutely I'm happy to help in any way I can.
And if you guys like, all of you can wander over at this point to say hi. You don't have to. Absolutely, your adventure.
Snowdrop's a little bit interested in Horatio, so he's clearly very popular, very famous, and she's kind of reconsidering the whole adventuring shtick already. Maybe it's better to be a detective. Can I be an apprentice detective to Horatio?
Do you ask this to Horatio?
Yes, I go hoppity hop over to Horatio, and I say, "Hi." Hello,
And
hello,
Horatio
sir.
sort of looks up at you and says, would you like an autograph?
Think about that, and I've got nothing to autograph except for an iron pot, so I pull that out of my bag, and I'm like, how about this?
So he takes the iron pot and he sort of looks at it and sort of looks at his pen or his he would have a feather and quill, I suppose. So he looks at his feather and quill and sort of attempts to etch something on the pot, and then just takes out a business card and signs that and hands it over to you. And you've got you can put in your inventory a business card from Horatio Cardigan, world's greatest traveling detective. Would anyone else like to do anything? Okay.
I'd probably just sort of pace behind him and just eye him up and just see if there's anything that I could lift off his person easily, or if he's got any bags or anything with him that I can, get that I can see, that anything I could quickly grab out.
Yeah, give me a perception check. And if you want to actually get in there, then we can do some other checks, but give me a perception check first.
Yep. I'm sorry. Oh, what's that? Oh, this is a nat 20.
Okay, so with a nat 20, you get a couple of things. You see that Horatio Cardigan's cardigan is a bit threadbare, and it's sort of worn. You can see he's been pulling threads out of it willy-nilly over the years. He's got a bowler hat. He's carrying a cane, so he's got a cane in his left hand. That he's gripping that. You could attempt to remove it if you wish. You do see that he has a sort of a fanny pack that he's sort of it's towards the back, so you could go for the fanny pack. And you also see there is a bag of gold on his hip. It's jingling. It seems large. So a large bag of gold on his hip. Beyond that, not anything other than the clothes he's sort of wearing. And you see further back with that that he came in on sort of a horse and cart setup.
Oh, and there's a horse and cart there that no one's looking at?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go to the horse and cart and see if I can take anything out of that.
Okay. Just for completeness, make me a stealth check.
Yep. 18.
So yeah, that's easy enough. Everyone's sort of looking at Horatio Cardigan and what happened with the ice method. So you get in the cart. At a quick glance, you see that there's some traveling adventurer gear, nothing beyond what you would already have. You see some eaten rations. You see a couple of posters from Horatio Cardigan, world's most famous detective, sort of put up around the place. A surprising lack of things otherwise. You don't see a lot of wealth or accoutrement. You do see with that, if you want, you can dig around for another few minutes. I'll get you to roll another stealth check, depending on how long you want to dig. If you want to just quickly rummage and grab what you can, just make an investigation check.
I'll keep digging. Do you want an investigation or a stealth, or both?
Give me an investigation first.
Nat 1.
Okay. With a Nat 1, you find a business card for Horatio Cardigan, world's famous detective.
Can I add it to my inventory?
You can add it to your inventory.
Excellent.
You also find a copy of Horatio Cardigan's self-penned novel, which is just titled Horatio Cardigan, Gentleman Investigative Detective. With that, just give me one last stealth check.
Yep. Ooh, 11.
11. So you make it out of the cart all right. You don't, most of the townsfolk don't see you, but you do see Orbis sort of looking at you from the crowd, and he just sort of looks at you and just sort of shakes his head and just turns away.
Yeah, okay. I think he's the only person who could make me feel guilt. So yeah, I feel he's done a lot of really good things for me, and I kind of every time I do this, it just throws it back in his face, and it's not nice.
So while you're doing that, Brother Marshall, if you want to do anything, Angelo, if you want to do anything, Duran Thunderaxe, Nibbles the cat has sort of perked up and is sort of following you around, whatever you're doing. But Brother Marshall or Angelo, is there anything you'd like to be doing? You see the elder sort of standing towards the back. He's sort of looking for adventurers.
So Angelo will sort of take his hood off from all the furs, magic still coursing through him. He'll pick his way through the crowd and just make sure no one got hurt and the sort of the shoving and the scuffling as he makes his way towards the elder.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think Brother Marshall would do very similar, also making sort of a beeline towards the elder, seeing that as the way to access suitable employment.
Okay. Do the rest of you join them? Anything else anyone's doing?
Snowdrop loses her verb after receiving a business card and nothing else, and so her little ears droop, and then she decides to go for the next best opportunity. So she hops over slowly towards the elder. Okay.
So Elder Elro sort of looks around at the group of you gathering together, and he sort of gauges you, and he senses that you're perhaps not well known to each other necessarily. Some of you might know each other, but he sees that you worked well in combat, and he sort of gathers you in and says, so you seem like the sort of people that might be able to help us out. Ergon's death was not natural. 2 months ago, he returned home after exploring for a year. He'd only been back for a few days when he came down with something strange, a strange affliction. He started moving slower, and blue veins appeared all over his body. It was unnatural. Now the village priests are Moradin and Corlin, and they're blessed folk. They're powerful, but they couldn't heal Ergon. Nothing seemed to stop it. God's work didn't work. The apothecary's stuff didn't work. And after he battled it for weeks, he eventually turned to ice. Now, we sort of thought it was an isolated thing, and that as sad as it was, that was the end of it. But we noticed that Tulgi, one of the trappers, has started to show signs of the same illness. I tried to get have a chat to her, but she pushed me away and just said, "Let me go." So she's showing signs, and I'm worried. I'll be honest with you.
Okay, where is this trilogy? Maybe I can bring her around some chicken soup, but of course I'll wear a mask and use some special hand sanitizer. It's a new thing I made by mixing water and beer. It kind of works, but I think it's going to take off one day.
Well, I'm just a farmer backwards here in Palebank Village, but I got hopes for you, lad. I can give you the keys to Tulgi's cabin. I posted a guard, one of the glass blades outside it, just to see that she doesn't spread anything. I can give you the keys to Ergon's cabin too, if you want. That might help steer your direction for your investigation.
I think that sounds like a wonderful idea. What do you say, gang?
Yeah. Can I ask a few more questions? Is that okay?
What do you need to know?
Do we know where Ergon went on his adventures? And do we know if he brought anything back with him?
Well, he told tall tales in the taverns. He mentioned some place called Eiselcross. He did come back richer. I don't know how, but he seemed to always be able to get some more money whenever he needed here in town. Sort of kept to himself, though, so hard to say.
And do we know where this Tulaby traveled to recently? Or did they travel recently as well?
She is a trapper. She goes around different places in the area catching game, but as far as I know, just local to the Palebank village, hasn't traveled afar. Sort of keeps to herself as well, a bit of a loner.
And do these two people know each other?
No, everyone knows everyone here in the village, but there's no particular connection between them. Not star-crossed lovers or anything. At least not that I know of.
You see Duran being just a little bit less excited now that he hears that there's no connection. He was hoping for some star-crossed lover action.
I'll put a hand on his shoulder and I'll say, we don't know they weren't star-crossed lovers, though.
And Duran starts smiling again.
I think that's a lot to start with. Should we reconvene somewhere warm and out of the snow and with a fire and a roof?
Yes, it seems like we've got quite the investigation group here. It probably should talk some more.
Is there a local bar nearby? I, of course, will be the designated watch person to look after people who get a little bit unwell, but feel free to partake. I will look after you guys.
Well, I've got nothing better to do.
So, Teo, you would know the local bar. What's the local bar called?
The Lowly Wench.
Okay, so you're free to make your way to the Lowly Wench if you wish.
I think I hear what everyone's sort of saying, and that everyone's trying to help the community here, and I'm feeling pretty crappy about myself, having just been caught stealing, which so I wander up to the group and I just sort of say, I want to help. I want to do something good and right, and I want to do the right thing. So I heard you looking for somewhere that we can get warmer, and it's I know just the place. So I'll lead them towards the lowly wench.
It's great to meet you, laddie. What's your name? I'm Durin.
I'm Theo.
Nice to meet you, Theo. Pleasure to finally meet a local. Golly, I've been lost in these winter lands for so long that this is the first thing I see. An ice method, and you guys.
Well,
I think Marshall's kind of blown away by Durin's. Just like he's the complete opposite of every other dwarf he's ever met like across his entire like life so far, and it's really putting him off.
Durin is blissfully unaware of all of this, and he's just going on his way and just shaking hands, saying hello, and telling everyone that the first round's on him.
Okay. So the party finds itself in the tavern. You have things to discuss. You have a starting point for your investigation. You have a mystery to solve and a reward potentially of 100 gold pieces on the line. You're racing the clock against Horatio Cardigan, and you have time to talk in the tavern if you wish. You can take a rest, or you can head out to investigate. Behind the table talk will probably wrap the session up in 10-15 minutes. So what do you guys want to do with that?
What time of day is it?
It is just getting in towards night. So you the funeral's at dusk. So you're just heading into night now.
No better time to start an investigation, right? A few drinks in, go to a random stranger's house, ask a few questions. Perfect time to kick things off.
Now, I don't think we should be disturbing the sick while they're asleep.
Well, should we go to Ergon's house then? Take a poke around before Horatio gets there.
I think that sounds like a lovely idea. He might have a nice cozy home. One that has, and maybe if I decide it's a nice place to live here, it might be worth renting. I'm sure that there's a vacancy. Dark humor.
I'd probably go back to Orbis's house, my house, just talk to Orbis to see if he had been asked to make any potions or anything that could have been for this illness, or if he's heard anyone else who's fallen to this illness, or if he's heard of it before.
So in a sec, we can split the party if you guys wish, which always works out well. So Teo's going to head to Orbis, who is the apothecary for the village. Do the rest of you wish to head to Ergon's cabin? The other option is Tulgi's cabin, but either would be a fine starting.
My plan is, Angelo, is to head to Ergon's cabin.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds like a good plan.
So we'll split into party Ergon's cabin first. So you guys make yourself easy enough. It's not a huge village. Ergon Wenth lives in a one-story, one-room log cabin at the edge of town. As you walk up there, you see that there's a glass blade who is sort of the local law enforcement, has been positioned outside Ergon's cabin. What do you guys do?
I think first I'd probably ask the guard that's on the door. Has anyone come in to see? Has anyone been here since you've been posted?
Yeah. So the glassblade looks like a relatively young female wood elf scout, and she says, "No one's been around. No one's been around yet. I did hear that Horatio Cardigan's in town, so I'm hoping he comes. But no one's been around yet. Fairly dull shift. You guys got any good stories?"
Durin goes to the elf and goes, "Private Thunder Axe, ready for duty. Late, but present and willing to help. And I have some great stories." And he pulls out a book about a hungry caterpillar. and he slowly starts to read it out to the elf.
Okay, so no persuasion check needed. The elf is immediately on side. You guys can enter the cabin. She sort of waves you in. That's fine. So you enter the cabin. You see a cramped, dark cabin. It might have been cozy when Ergon was alive, but now it's nothing but an unmade bed near a cold fireplace with a mantle hung with the head of some sort of snarling white beast with grey horns. On the other side of the room, a small table is strewn with dirty dishes and set with a dwarf-sized chair standing before 2 empty shelves whose contents are scattered across the floor, some kitchen utensils, dried foodstuffs, adventuring gear, and a few books. So you see a bed, you see a fireplace, you see a mantle with a beast with some horns, a small table, and some empty shelves, contents scattered across the ground.
Durin takes one look at the dirty dishes and goes, "This will not do," and starts rolling up his sleeves, getting ready to start cleaning these dishes.
Yep. I mean, you can do that. If you want, you can make some sort of check to see how effectively you do that. What are the others doing while Durin does that?
Snowdrop creeps up to the bed and lifts the sheets to have a look.
Yep. Tell you what, why don't you all make an investigation check? If you want to investigate a specific part of the room, you can. So there's bed, there's bookshelves, there's stuff scattered on the floor. There is the mantelpiece. Just roll an investigation check for me. So
yeah, I think Brother
just
Marshall would want to have a look for any books that there might be, or any journals or diaries that he might have.
Okay, what did you roll, Brother Marshall?
3.
With a 3, you actually find a novel. It's the initial release of Horatio Cardigan's Grand Adventures. If anyone else wants, they can also assist him and roll on that check as well.
I think I'll pass that book to Durin. Put it in his sort of side coat.
Ooh, and he puts it in. He's like, "This will be great nighttime reading for later," and he stows it in his backpack. Durin, in the meanwhile, is investigating the kitchen and rolls a flat 12.
Flat 12. Okay, so not hard. The cabin is, there's limited amounts in the cabin. With a 12, you do realize that there are some footprints amongst the cabin. And you think that the intruders' footprints, whoever they were, are not Ergon's. You think they're probably a female elves. And that's what you get with a 12. So a female elf is probably...
Snowdrop's still ruffling amongst the blankets and all over the sheets of the bed, and she's just rolled a 17.
17, not bad. With a 17, you find a book that's sort of been rummaged off the shelf and must have fallen onto the bed in sort of a mad search. With that, you find a folded receipt in the book, and it's dated 2 months previously, and it's for Pelk's Curiosities, which is one of the shops in town. And you can see that Ergon sold some various miscellaneous items to Pelk's Curiosities for 1,000 gold pieces. The items are listed as the following: a dagger, a scroll case, a jade statue, a quiver of 20 arrows, a silver ring set with a jasper, and 2 blue glass vials. And I'll copy this to the private chat as well. And for what it's worth, you're relatively local, Snowdrop, so you would know that Pelk's Curiosity was actually robbed and vandalized 2 months ago, and that was a bit of a scandal in town. Even living a bit out of town, you heard about that scandal.
So my eyes grow wide because I've never even seen a sum this large of 1,000 gold pieces. We've never sold dill for anything close to that rate. And so the first thing I say is, "Oh, golly." And then I say, "Pelks. I think I heard of something happening to Pelks a while back." "Oh, I remember now. It was a robbery. Does that have something to do with it?"
Do you think the robbery was before or after the trade was made?
I have a look at the date on the receipt.
It's about the same
No, I
time.
wouldn't.
So about 2 months ago was the receipt, and you know that the story of the robbery and vandalizing was about 2 months ago. So it's hard to say if it was before or after, but it was almost uncannily at that same time.
Were there any suspects for that robbery? Did they catch anyone?
No one was
I'm
caught
asking
at
for
the
the
time.
group. I'm not local.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So I think I want to head over to where Pelks was and see how Pelks is going. I've never been to that store before myself.
Yeah, I want to come to Angela for a sec because Angela rolled a 19. Angela, what were you investigating?
Can I help out with Brother Marshall and trying to find maps, journals, where he might have gone on this adventure?
Yep. So with a 19, you do a pretty thorough check. You see what's already been described. So you see the book with the receipts. You see the footprints, and you really suspect this is probably Tuli Lutan's footprints based on the shape, the size, and the description that was provided to you by the elder. So the other trapper of interest who has been in the cabin and perhaps done the ransacking. With the 19, the head above the mantelpiece catches your attention, and you think that's not something found locally here. You think that monster is found somewhere far away in a place called Iselcross. You can't quite put a name to what monster it is. Anyone who wants can make a nature check, but you've heard tales of something like this being found in a place called Iselcross. With a 19, you also find some of his adventuring equipment, and I'll put that in the private chat. You find a silvered maul, a suit of splint armor for a dwarf, a grappling hook, and a hooded lantern. And I'll put that in the chat. You guys can choose to either leave that or divvy it up as you like amongst yourselves.
I'm shocked he got that thing through customs. Tell you what.
It's like, ooh, this seems like fine adventuring equipment.
I mean, we can resell these things. Does anyone need any of these items at all?
The maul and that splint armor might be good if no one else is opposed to it. But I'm always happy to share.
And you hear from the front of the cabin, you hear the glassblade laughing and says, "Oh, very hungry caterpillar, you can't eat that." I'm just going to roll something. You guys continue to banter.
I do hate to be that guy, but did this guy have a family? Should we be robbing
that's a very
him?
good point. If this person has a family, we should be doing a food drive for them. I can do some baking. And then I look to whoever's a local. Is it Angelo is a local? Or Snowdrop?
Absolutely not, but it'd be funny if you thought I was.
Yes, I go, I got to turn to Angelo and I go, do you know if this man has a family?
No, that's why I just asked if he did.
Oh, and it starts to become very clear to the group that Durin is a very kind soul, but not a very bright soul.
With the nature checks that are rolled, you're uncertain of what this creature that's placed above the mantelpiece is. You sort of, out of the corner of your eye, you see the glassblade still reading her book. She's in trance. You suspect you could, if you wanted, take these items and sort of store them. You might have to roll some sort of stealth check just to get out the front door, or you could sneak out the window. It's up to you guys.
Look, I think the grappling hook's got a bit of fun to it, but the rest of it, I think, is only really good for either yourself, Durin, or for Snowdrop in terms of size.
What do you think, Snowdrop? Anything takes your fancy?
I'm not keen on wearing any armor. I don't need any armor as a rabbit. But if you want it, then we can sneak out together. I've got no qualms.
Well, it's not really stealing if it's borrowing, and I could always return it later. I feel like this person would be, I'm sure this kind, generous soul would be willing to lend an armor to a guard trying to do his best work.
You're right. It's borrowing, isn't it? That's what I thought as well.
Absolutely.
That's what my ma always taught me. Good borrow.
Yes, a
100%.
good
I'm
borrow.
popping the grappling hook with this explanation.
And I'm stuffing the suit of armor into a country road like bag.
So you guys are doing that. You hear from outside, an autograph. Why? I thought you'd never ask. And you get the sense that you have very limited time to either get out or hide or
I'm going to
conceal these
point
items
to the
and leave.
window,
Yep.
and then start creeping towards it.
Okay.
I grab the receipt and I quickly shove it into my knapsack.
Yep.
While also putting the splint armor in his bag, also eyes the Silverwood Mall and goes, "I'm just a little bit more borrowing. Might not. It's not going to hurt a soul." And then starts putting it in and starts making his way to the window. He literally sounds like a kitchen's being carried with him.
Anyone who's doing this, can you make me a stealth check?
Okay. With disadvantage, of course. Yep. So that is a 3 for Durin.
Okay. 3 is not bad because Angelo has rolled a 24. Snowdrop's rolled a 10, so you guys sort of balance out. Not hard. The glass blade is distracted by Horatio Cardigan. You guys can sneak out without being caught. I don't want to paint the image here. This is a silver mall, so you like it's not like you're just chucking something in your pocket. This is clearly a mall sticking out of you somewhere on your body. But yeah, you guys make it out. And as you guys creep off into the night, away from the cabin, off to investigate Tulgi's cabin, we are going to end there. And we will come back to the mystery of Palebank Village in the next episode of Roll for Cliniciative. Yes, a reminder to everyone listening, this is not a medical advice podcast. Please see your doctor for clinical advice. This is a D&D podcast. And we will see you for the next episode.
In a realm where magic and medicine collide, a band of heroes stands ready. Their spells are mighty. Their foes, fearsome. But in this world, healing comes in many forms. Doctors and dragons, where fantasy meets first aid.